Thursday, October 24th, 2013. This is the Hermetic Hour, and I am your host, Poke Runyon. And tonight we present another of our ongoing lecture series on the paths of the Qabalistic Tree of Life. And this time we deal with the devil and the tarot trump and other relevant symbolic aspects of the path that leads from Hod, the Mercurial Sphere of the intellect, up to Tiphareth, the solar sphere of mystical transformation and beauty. Now, once again, our primary texts for reference will be Gareth Knight's Practical Guide to Qabalistic Symbolism and Israel Regardie's Garden of Pomegranates. That's the first edition. So if you want a journey from the laboratory to the temple, meet the devil on the way, tune in and travel with us from darkness to light. Now, this is a very, very interesting and a challenging path. And you want to look, those of you who are looking at a Tree of Life design while we're doing this, and you should be, by the way, you notice over on the opposite side, over on the pillar of mercy, the same path leading from Netzach, the sphere of nature, up to Tiphareth on this angle, is attributed to the tarot card death. And here we have on the side of the pillar of severity leading from Hod up to Tiphareth, we have the devil. Now, obviously, there is some intent here. And the concept that unifies the death and the devil as far as their positions on the Tree of Life is concerned is the concept of the veil of the sanctuary. Now, as you're looking at your design of the Tree of Life there, we have three curtains or veils on the tree. The first one runs right through the bottom of Yesod, separating sphere of Malkuth, physical sphere, from what we refer to as the astral plane, or the Yetzirah dimension in Qabalistic terminology, but we usually use the astral plane as a description of the Yetzirah dimension. Now, this curtain or veil runs right across the bottom of Yesod, because Yesod, the sphere of the moon, right in the center, the middle pillar, is the first of the spheres above Malkuth, and it's where the astral plane begins. Now, that's the first veil. But then, above that, and on either side, we have the spheres of Hod, the Mercurial Sphere, sphere of the intellect, sphere of science and rational thoughts, and the sphere of the plottings and the plannings and of the human race. And then over on the other side, on the pillar of mercy, we have Netzach, which is the sphere of nature and the sphere of natural harmony and fertility and the cycles of nature and the philosophy of nature. So this is two balancing spheres here. We might refer to Hod almost as the sphere of the conscious, and then perhaps Netzach is the sphere of the unconscious. That's an oversimplification, but it gives you an idea of what the differences here are. And now, above these two spheres, Hod and Netzach, is another veil. And this is called the veil of the sanctuary. And this goes right on across below Tiphareth. Now, Tiphareth is right in the center of the tree, and it's usually And the minutum mundum, which is the combination color scale that we use, this usually is shown as gold or yellow color, and Hod is orange, and this is green. Now, the reason why we have this veil of the sanctuary running right below Tiphareth, over Hod and over Nessach, right, is because Tiphareth is the sphere, the sun is the sphere of transformation. This is really a point of, well, you might say, lesser enlightenment. This is the beginning. Tiphareth is the beginning of enlightenment. It's the sphere of sacrifice. It's the sphere of transformation. It's the sphere, if you were Christian, you would place Jesus in Tiphareth. If you were if you're using the Canaanite pantheon like we do, you place Baal, who is the green man, and you place Mok, his brother, who is the grim reaper. You place both of them in Tiphareth. Tiphareth is all of the various mythological versions of the dying and reborn God. Now, Osiris ought to go there, actually, if you're using the Egyptian pantheon, but the Golden Dawn has some different symbolism that they used, and so we won't try to dispute that. But think of Tiphareth as the sphere of enlightenment, the solar sphere, the sphere in which you achieve mystical revelation and attainment by sacrifice and transformation with enlightenment. Now, therefore, we have this sanctuary, this veil of sanctuary that separates. Now, two ways to get from two different sides of the tree, two angular paths. Over here on from Hod, where we're going to explore tonight, we have the 26th path, and that is attributed to the letter Ayin, which is in Phoenician, by the way. The letter Ayin is a circle, and this is even more apropos because Ayin means the eye. And then over on the other side, we have Nun, and this is attributed to the death card. And as I'm sure most of you know, the death card in the tarot doesn't really signify death as such, physical death. It does signify transformation and transition. And in case you're wondering what the death card really is, I don't need to tell you that right now, but it's not the death card over there and on the path from Nessach to Tiphareth is the death card does not really mean death in the way in a physical death. But the devil, we can't say the devil doesn't really mean the devil because actually it does. And the devil is the card that dominates the tarot card, that dominates the path, the 26th path that leads from Hod, the Mercurial Sphere, the sphere of the Great Library, the sphere of the Great Laboratory, and it leads from there over through the veil to Tiphareth, where one would achieve enlightenment. Tiphareth is also called the sphere of beauty, and I'll mention a few things about beauty. Beauty is a word, when we use it in Kabbalah and magic, beauty has a somewhat different meaning than we ordinarily think. It's one of those words like romance. The popular meaning of romance is associated with a couple of high school kids, looking at the moon out at Lover's Lane. But that's not the true, deeper meaning of romance and the meaning of romantic. And the meaning of love the same way. We tend to think of love in terms of country western songs where the singer is always singing about oh poor Oh, poor Betty May, and I love her so much and all that. Well, that's not what we mean esoterically by love. And the same thing with beauty. Now, we understand, I want to try to explain the esoteric meaning of beauty because I think it's important we understand this. This is our goal, is beauty, and to achieve transformation and beauty. We're down there in this sphere of the intellect, odd, the sphere of the rational intellect, the sphere where we can go down to the laboratory and see if we can cook up some sort of a chemical that will either do terrible things or wonderful things or whatever. We don't have so much of a spiritual mission in Hod as we do a mission of science and intellect and progress and all of these conscious things that humankind seems to want to do. And I might mention here there's a very clear aspect of the masculine in this Hodian process. We might say that it has almost a devilish quality to it because there's a masculine characteristic of creativity. And creativity doesn't necessarily have to be good. And it doesn't necessarily have to help anybody, and it doesn't necessarily have to make the world a better place. In fact, some of the creative efforts in design and engineering and all have brought us some pretty horrible things. And you might say that for all of our comforts that the Industrial Revolution has given us, it hasn't made us any happier, and frankly, the pollution and the depletion of resources and the pollution of the planet more than make up on the dark side for whatever we've gained from this. Plus, the more we improve quality of life, the more people we breed all over the world, and where now the human race itself are almost in the category of a pest. We've reached proportions. If you look at this, if you look down on the planet as if you were a super intelligent life form from another world studying us, you would see the human race almost as a pestilence. I know that, but that's part of this masculine mercurial quality that goes beyond the rational. Even though it claims to be rational, it is rooted in the rational process. But in matter of fact, it really isn't that moral, and it isn't that ethical, and it certainly isn't that spiritual. Now, I know those of you who know me, you know I'm not a feminist, and neither a Republican or a Democrat, and I'm neither a liberal or a conservative. In fact, I actually believe the American eagle should have both a right wing and a left wing. That way it can fly in the direction it needs to go. Whereas if it just had a left wing or it just had a right wing, it would fly in circles and get nowhere. So this is not a political message that I'm giving. This is something about human nature here that you need to know. So this is Hod. Hod is this Mercurial Sphere. And it's interesting that the planet Mercury is a pretty good planetary analogy for this because Mercury is hotter than blazes and it doesn't rotate. So one side of Mercury is freezing cold, the other side of Mercury is blazing hot, and maybe there is a little twilight zone in the middle, only a few miles wide, that if you can't breathe on Mercury anyway, but that might be tolerable if you could stand it, and that's it. So it's extremes. There is no blending. There's no balance. There's this. It's either freezing cold or blazing hot. There's nothing in between, and that also could describe some of the processes of engineering and science and whatever that occur or arise out of the Hodian situation. Now, that's where we start from to go up this path of the devil, this through this veil of the sanctuary to reach the sphere of transformation, of sacrifice, of beauty, of mystical and spiritual attainment. All right, I said I was going to talk about beauty. Now, beauty is, number one, our appreciation of the universe, which goes beyond the beautiful starry sky at night. It goes beyond the mountains and the rivers and the forest and all that. All of that is all certainly beautiful. It is appreciation of the beauty, and this appreciation, and the more awe-inspired we are by this, the closer we are to God. Because in Hermetic philosophy, we are the eyes of God. We all have an identically fashioned spark of the Supreme Being in us. And we are the eyes, we're the hands, we're the multi-billion fingers of God. And this makes us unique on this planet. Because as dearly as I loved my cats and my dogs, I don't really think that cats and dogs contemplate and appreciate beauty. If they do, they're not aware that they're contemplating and appreciating it. They may be, but they're not. A cat is just as happy in a house that's painted in awful colors and not very well decorated as he is or she is in a house that's beautifully decorated and appointed. This appreciation of beauty. Now, this goes further. This goes further into great art, great sculpture, great art, great objects of art, although they are static. And you know the concept of the preform. The preform is alive, and then when it becomes real, then when it becomes physical, then it's on its way out because then it's fixed. But that does not apply to an object of art. And the reason why that is because even though it was made 1,000 years ago, when you see it, you appreciate that beauty. And it lives again in that beauty. So beauty is a spiritual concept. And this is why the great master Plotinus, the father of Neoplatonism, he said that beauty was an approach to God. And it is. Okay, this characterizes Tiphareth. And the reason why I spent a little time on beauty here is to give you that concept. Now, the path that we're going to take from this one might say is godless scientific laboratory, library, and Hod, where the boys are doing all of their evil science, and they're generating corn with scorpion venom, so the corn will fight off the insects and all this awful stuff they do. And that's in Hod. And we're going to take this path, number 26, up to Tiphareth. And this path is attributed to Ayin, the letter Ayin. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to read you Regardie's section on this from the Garden of Pomegranates, which is rather short, but we'll just read this so you get all the symbolism that Regardie indicates. And he says, Ayin, pronounced Ayin with a slight nasal twang, which means the eye, referring to the eye of Shiva, said to be atrophied into the pineal gland. Astrologically, it is Capricorn, the mountain goat, leaping forwards and upwards boldly without fear, and yet remaining close to the hilltops. Its symbols are both the Ani and the Lingam, and its gods are emblematic of the creative forces of nature. Chem is the Egyptian creative principle, almost always shown with the head of a lustful goat. Priapus is the Greek god, insofar as he was the god of sexual fecundity and fruitfulness. Pan, when represented as the goat of the flock, raving and raping, ripping and rending, everlasting, is attributed here too. Bacchus, the jovial representative of the reproductive and intoxicating power of nature, is another correspondence. Hemp, from which hashish is a derivative, is attributed because of its intoxicating and ecstasy-producing qualities. Ain represents the spiritual creative force of the Godhead, which, should it become openly manifest in a man, makes him Egyptian, in other words, the all. This path is symbolic of the mad God, eager and exalted, consciously aware of his true will, and ready to set out on his long and wearisome journey of redeeming the world. The tarot card is 15, the devil, showing a winged, god-headed satyr with a pentagram on his brow, pointing upwards with his right hand, his left hand clutching a flaming firebrand, pointing downwards. To his throne are chained a nude male and female figure, both having the horns of a goat. The jewel appropriate to the 26th path is the black diamond, the animals, the goat and the ass. It will be remembered that Jesus is pictured in the Gospel as riding into Jerusalem astride an ass, and, if memory serves me correctly, there is a reference somewhere to Dionysus also riding on an ass. The title is The Renovating Intelligence. The perfume is musk, and the odor is black. So that's the basic symbolism of the path. Let me say right now that, of course, Gareth Knight, in his practical guide to Qabalistic Symbolism, which we've been using in these lectures, he has a more lengthy section on this, in which he cites Eliphas Levi and various others. But in this particular case, I think a superior rendition of the symbolism of this path is to be found in a book by my friend John Michael Greer called Paths of Wisdom. Now, this book came out in 1996, so it post-dates, as it will be, Gareth Knight's work by 30 years or 40 years or so. Very, very nice book, and I heartily recommend it. It's called Paths of Wisdom, and it has descriptions of the spheres and the paths. It's sort of like a combination of Dion Fortune's mystical Kabbalah and Regardie's Garden of Pomegranates, except his descriptions of the paths and the spheres are much more extensive. They're about the same length and treatment as Basil will be, but I think in this case, at least, on this path, I think John Michael Greer's exposition is superior. Now let's talk about how we do it. I'll give you some insights into this. In the first place, as those of you who have been following our expositions, you know that above the three lower spheres, that's Hod, Yesod, and Netzach, and the three paths that lead to them directly from Malkuth, above that, we use a device called Kusor's boat. And this is a magical device. It's a boat about a foot long, and it has wings folded along the sides, has an ibis beak. It's black on one side, on the side of the black pillar, and it's white on the other side, on the side of the white pillar. And it has divided down the middle. It has a compass. It has a cockpit. It has a rudder. It has, it has two candles on the thwarts on either side. We have little candle holders, so we can put the candles attributed to the color of the sphere on the boat, and we'll put the boat in the center of the altar, and then we all go into trance on the altar, and our spirit bodies, our little spirit bodies, up on top of the altar, and we get on the boat. The boat spreads its wings and it flies through the soul door, and we're off. Now, the advantage of this, of course, is it enables us to fly over the paths on the tree of life that we've already done. And this is this 26th path from Hod up to Tiphareth is a boat working. So how will we do this? Well, in the Temple of Malkuth, we'll set the boat up, and in this case, we're going to Tiphareth, so it would be a good idea to use yellow candles on the boat, and we'll all get in the boat, and we'll go through the soul door or through the mirror. If you don't have a soul door, you can always hang a big dark mirror, and use that as your portal. And we go through and we'll fly. I think the best route for this one, you could go up right straight up the 32nd path and then fly over, you saw it, and then do the 30th path. Again, if you want to look down and review all that, and then land at the library of Hod, below the mesa of the whole library, you could do that if you want to just look down on, areas that you've already covered. But I think it's more direct, especially seeing as how this is on the side of the sphere of spirity, or the pillar of spirity. The best thing to do is to get on the boat in Malkuth and just fly over the path of Sheen, the path of judgment, look down on all of that, fly over that, land at the library below the mesa, and get off the boat, and then hike the path on up to Tiphareth, the 26th path attributed to the devil, and then get on through to Tiphareth. That's the way we're going to do it. So we get off, we leave the boat at the mesa, at the base of the mesa, get off the boat, and then we start hiking up on this path. Now, this path, I want to mention to you, this path is considered to be very stressful and somewhat scary, and this eye symbolism. Now, in our particular version of this path working, we have a stark broken landscape, and there's nowhere to hide, really, as you go across. This landscape is almost like one of Salvador Dali's endless perspectives, and there is no place for you to hide. And over all of this, looking down at you, is this gigantic eye. And this eye, this eye sees all. The eye sees all. And it sees, and you suspect that it's the eye of God, but you're not really sure whether it's the eye of God or whether it's the eye of the devil. You don't know. But it is not a friendly vision. And you must proceed through this broken landscape with very few hiding places. There's no way to escape it. You have to proceed with this gigantic eye looking down on you. There are birds circling, and there are other human beings trying to cross this landscape. And every so often the birds swoop down and grab them and take them thrashing into the air. And you know that at any time, because the eye has you in sight, and if the eye is in fact directing these birds, and these birds are plucking human beings off the plane and carrying them away, and this is how you have to proceed through this sort of an intimidating environment. Now let me digress here a little bit about the devil and the symbolism of the devil in this sense. Now, the devil card, the tarot card, and this is the one I'm referring to, the one we use for this is the Pixie Smith Arthur Waite Rider pack. And the symbolism here is multifold and very significant, because chained to the bottom of the pedestal is a rather attractive man, nude, and beside him a woman, nude. Both of them have horns and tails, and they're chained to rocks. Now, various interpretations of this. Basil Wilby, Gareth Knight seems to think that they're wearing, that they're really human beings that are dressed up like they're wearing caps with horns on them and all that. Regardie sees them as actual demonic beings, and John Michael Greer sees them as supernatural beings. I see them as the fallen angels. And what we're seeing here is a lower version, the mountain of darkness in the Zohar. Now, what they did in the Zohar, which, as you may know, was written down in the Middle Ages in the 1200, in the 12th century, 1360, something like that. And by this time, what a Jewish legend had done with the fallen angels, as you know, they really didn't. The Book of Enoch was, well, they had a Hebrew version of it, but the Book of Enoch was not that canonized either in the Jewish tradition or in the Christian tradition. But what they did was they took all of these fallen angels and that whole crew of Semyaza and his fallen angels from the Book of Enoch, and they condensed them down to Azza and Azazel, a male and a female representing all of those imprisoned fallen angels. And they chained them in the mountain of darkness. And King Solomon was rumored to fly to the mountain of darkness on the back of Shumal, the mother of eagles. And we have Shumal, of course, is a Canaanite. That's from Canaanite mythology. And he would go and get his arcane arts, his magical knowledge from Azza and Azazel, chained in the mountain of darkness, the fallen angels. Now, that is what you're seeing, a lower down version. This would actually, this scene of Azza and Azazel chained in the mountain of darkness should be up in Da'ath. It ought to be up in Saturn. But we're seeing it here, but then you're seeing on top of this, you're seeing this representation of the devil, this huge representation of the devil. Now Gareth Knight says, oh, well, the devil's an illusion. Well, maybe, but at this point, down here in this level, the devil is actually the Lord of these fallen angels. And quite frankly, as at a higher level in all of this symbolism, we have to realize that we are the fallen angels. Azza and Azazel represent us. And these two figures here in this, chained to this pedestal here, under the devil, this great big devil that rules them. And these two figures are both represent fallen angels, and they also represent us. Now that should give you an idea of what the symbolism of the path is, because here we are. The fallen angels, by the way, they fell. The reason why the fallen angels fell is that they wanted to enjoy the physical. This whole idea that heaven is some beautiful place where everybody is happy and wonderful, and you wouldn't want to leave there and all that. That's not true. It can't be true, because otherwise, why would we be here enjoying life? Those of us that do, and there's a lot of us who do. This whole concept of heaven being a spiritual realm, being infinitely preferred to life on earth. This is for people who don't enjoy life, and there's a lot of people who don't. But the truth of the matter is that life, physical life, is desirable, and these angels in heaven, these fallen angels, they wanted physical life. They wanted to mate with the daughters of men and all that. Of course, that's an allegory. Actually, that's not. You can't have angels mating with people, but you certainly can have angels entering human form and enjoying it. Now, if you think that sounds sort of heretical, well, think about this. Malkuth is considered the kingdom. Yes, Malkuth is the most, next to Kether on top and Malkuth on the bottom. Malkuth's the most important sphere in the whole Kabbalah. Here, in the physical world, this is where it's done. This is where we do it. This is the plane of demonstration. This is where it gets done. And then when you're dead, you can hang around and think about what you didn't do and think about what you might want to do better next time and all of that. But if you when it comes to doing something, really doing something, you're going to come back again and do it. And you say, oh, well, that's not what we have to have. We're going to heaven and we're going to, well, yeah, sure, you go to heaven for a while. All right, I don't mind that. But here's where it gets done. Here or on some other planet or some other physical plane or whatever. Yeah. So the idea of these fallen angels, they're imprisoned in matter. Now, this means that we are, on the one hand, evolving toward the spiritual and aspiring toward the spiritual. On the other hand, we are bound and we are, in a sense, devolving into the physical. And the trick is to walk this razor's edge between the two. To walk the razor's edge between the two, to where you aspire for the spiritual, you love the spiritual, but at the same time, you master and enjoy and prosper in the physical. And that is a very, very hard balance to achieve. Because human beings, being what they are, they seem to want to go to either one side or the other. And this is why they say one of the reasons why we have this checkerboard pattern on the floor of Masonic lodges is the black and white squares. The trick in this game is to end up standing on a white square, but it's still, the black squares are just as important. And as we said one time, I think Master Alain Duquette said from the top of Mount Shasta, he said, beyond the light you may discover darkness, or beyond the darkness you may find the light. You can't have one without the other. The choice must always be yours. This is the razor's edge the magician walks. And because, on the one hand, he craves and desires and is inspired by the spiritual, and yet he enjoys and he is challenged by, and he realizes the importance of his life in the physical. And so this is the challenge of this path. And when you finally manage to get through this horrible wasteland where under the great eye, the way you get through it is by your skill and your sagacity in avoiding the birds that are going to steal your soul if you are involved in either one extreme or the other. You have to find that middle way. And that's the real secret of this particular path. Now, I'd like to read here in John Michael Greer's book. Let's get all of the data on the path here that he has laid out. He has laid out like same ways that Neon Fortune did with the mystical Kabbalah. Letter of the path is I in the eye. Name of God is Adonai. Astrological correspondence, Capricorn, the fish goat. And the trump is 15, the devil. Esoteric title, Lord of the gates of matter, child of the forces of time. The path text, the 26th path, is called the renovating intelligence because the Holy God renews it all and the changing things which are renewed by the creation of the world. The mythological principle meeting with the powers of life. The experiences of the path, wild and desolate landscapes, storms and other expressions of forces of nature, subvergence of human consciousness and the animal self. Entities on the path, wild animals, feral humans, half-human creatures, satyrs, and other wilderness spirits, like our birds. Magical image, an arch of deep indigo color bearing the letter Ayin in brilliant white on its keystone. The door of the arch bears the image of the tarot trip. Colors, absolute indigo in Bria, black in Yasira, blue-black in Ashia, cold dark gray during black. Now, let me talk a little bit about Capricorn and Saturn. Okay, now this is also very much part of this path, although it is a presage of something a great deal higher. Capricorn, the fish code, was referred to in the initiatic code as the gate of the gods. Now, in the ancient initiatic code, souls came down the Milky Way through Cancer, and then when they died, the souls went back up through Capricorn, the gate of the gods. And the gate of the gods is of course, Capricorn is a tribute to Saturn, and here again, Saturn is, or at least the way we have conceived it, he is the furthest planet out. Well, that's where you're Kabbalah. The furthest planet out that the Kabbalists were aware of. It therefore became the center point of the cube of space and the beginning of the physical universe. Now, if you're attributing Capricorn to Saturn, it means the gate of the gods should be also related to the sphere of Ba'ath, if Saturn is in fact the sphere of Ba'ath, which we say it is. And therefore, Capricorn and Saturn represent this transition into the higher realms. That, of course, is replicated in the idea of death, which is the other path, of course, on the other side. But still, it's here again attributed, in a sense, to the devil. And another one of these transitions, one of these very, very ancient and advanced transitional images. Now we make it finally to Tiphareth. We finally get to Tiphareth. And Tiphareth, as we said, was the sphere, the solar sphere, the sphere of beauty, the sphere of transformation, the sphere of enlightenment. And in our particular system, we equate Tiphareth with a huge pyramid. And we have this huge pyramid, and on top of the pyramid is a great crystal. And inside the pyramid, in a great chamber inside the pyramid, we have the god Baal on his throne, and then we have beside him we have his brother Mot, the god of the Grim Reaper, god of death. And down from the crystal shines the solar ray and fills Baal's rail cup with all the colors of the rainbow. And you can dance around Baal and share his cup and fills you with life until you're finally exhausted. And then Mot conducts you out. And you climb the tower, you climb the pyramid. And when you get to the top of the pyramid, we have a sacrifice experience and a transitional experience. I'm not going to go into that because that's really for another time. But this imagery of Tiphareth is this transformation and this sacrifice and the advancement of the soul into the next stage. But in order to get to that Tiphareth sphere, you have three paths. You can go right straight up the middle. That's the path of temperance, and that's a dark night of the soul through storms or whatever. You can take the path of death over from Netzach, or you can take the path of the devil from Hod, which we have described this evening. Now, next week, we're going to do our show on Friday because Thursday night is Halloween, and we are going to go to a certain nightclub in Orange County and listen to Maestro Lon Duquette play his latest folk songs, and we're going to bring along enough to buy some of his new albums, and that's how we're going to spend Halloween night. But then Friday night, of course, we'll have, this weekend we'll have our Halloween party. And we're going to have our Halloween party. The dark mother of all Halloween parties will be on the 26th. And one of the high points of the party will be the recording of a radio play that we have extrapolated from the Seventh Ray's Sherlock Holmes and the Secret of the Necronomicon, the Curse of the Necronomicon, which we've shortened into Sherlock Holmes and the Necronomicon. It's about a 10-minute radio play, which we're going to have our various members do, impromptu. We'll give them the script, and we will record that at the Halloween party, and hopefully, if we're successful, we'll have this little radio drama, which we can play for you on next Friday night. That will be coming up, and ought to be a lot of fun. So, until next Friday night, this is your host of the Hermetic Hour, Poke Runyon, Frederick Avion, signing off, and good magic.